We almost got everyone. Almost. Now that I unmute them, now you have everybody.
Yay, now we're allowed to speak. It seems we exist after all. And how are we all doing? Who do we spy? I spy, with my little eye, something beginning with P. Nope, it's not a pineapple, that'll be Pseudo. And with Pseudo, of course, we have something beginning with G. And that would indeed be Gazimoff. How are we doing, Gazimoff?
You're doing okay. You're doing okay.
Good, good. Pseudo, tell us what delights are on the show for today.
Ooh, we are going to be discussing a lot today. It's actually a sort of a two-parter in one. We have had the customization drop come out of WildStar this week, and it is interesting to say the least. I mean, ramen noodles on top of a Chua bowl? Chua balls! Hello! Enough said.
I mean, and ramen noodles are all well and good, but how are you supposed to eat the ramen noodles on top of a moving chewable? I mean, you know, trying to run on the spot, not fall off, eat the noodles with the chopstick, and probably find that the dastardly chewer inside the ball is actually probably trying to shoot you, or doing something even more dastardly at the same time.
I think that those particular noodles are the sign of a chewer noodle delivery network that might be springing up.
Ah, does that mean we can type /noodle in game? And things will turn up at the door.
Yes, but they might not be noodles.
They might be chewers. I'm not. I mean, can you imagine having noodles delivered by chewers?
Well, you know what happened to Malvolio when he was having wine delivered by chewers.
That's
Just
not
saying.
fair. You're trying to make an assumption that all chewers are insane homicidal maniacs.
This is true. Yes.
Fine
I thought that
then.
was a given.
I just think that some chewers are more homicide-acal, maniacal things than others. Trying to create some new words. I should just invent words. We shall take vowels and we shall take letters. We shall take a concept and we shall smush them together until we have a new word. And I insist, if I say it enough, it'll get adopted into the English language.
Just because you're
That's
English
how these
doesn't
things
mean they're
work.
going to listen to you, Mizpah.
Oh.
Doesn't work
That's-
like that.
No. Most.
No.
So to the channel, if I want to get a new word created and inserted into the English language, how should I go about it? And more importantly, what word should it be? So while people are trying to work on a little bit of word root etymology, and let's not go into the conversation about pants and pants, we probably have other stuff to do. Yes, coded reference to the super secret MMOBuff chat from earlier, folks.
Yes, huge discussion on pants.
Or pants
You weren't even in that chat at the time.
No, but I still lurk and watch and know everything.
So he
I am all
says.
seeing.
But yes, we will be discussing customization. I want to also point out we will be talking a little bit about guilds and grouping because we've had an article by Aiko go up on the site in his use column about grouping and the rewards and benefits there are that are hopped onto you. There's also the gorgeous post by the gorgeous Gazimoff. I'm still trying to find a really good alliteration for you because Vixen didn't work last time. So maybe the gorgeous Gazimoff. The gaff. We'll find some G words for you. But you also did a really nice piece as well introducing ship hands and a really cool video of you as a Chua. Anyone who thought you would play something else? Who knows?
It was clearly wrong.
Yes, and at some point throughout this, and you probably are wondering why I keep looking this way away from the camera. It's because I do have a live Chua in the house, and I am having to keep my eye on it because the reality is I don't trust it.
You always need to keep your eye on chewers. I mean, sights, crosshairs, TNT. Those are good things to keep on chewers.
Yes. So if at some point in time you actually see me duck and something come flying by, there's a reason for it. But I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to actually introduce you to this Chew. I don't like the fact that she's playing with a laptop. It's playing with a laptop. They're playing with a laptop. Confusing.
A chewer's allowed to touch computers.
This one seems to.
I wouldn't. I would think it's a bad idea, personally, because you might find we suddenly go off air. However, before we get taken off air by a rampant chewer playing with a laptop, maybe it might be time to talk about some news. Do you have any bits and bobs you want to throw into the mix, Mr. G?
Hold on.
Well,
News time.
all right, I have a kind of intro music now. Okay.
You do.
Not yet.
Okay.
So far, it's just purely beatboxing on, Pseudo's part. Boom, chicka, oh, boom, 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 chicka. But there you go.
Suggestions to the channel, please, for suitable intro music for Gazimoff's news.
Yes, and before we go too far,
I'd like something else.
Hello to everyone who has shown up, from Suliko to Arily to Real Blank Space to Avid Guru. It's great to see the Hive here, someone else who I think associates very clearly with the Chua. Also Vistom, and yeah, hi guys. But go ahead. Now you can reveal your news.
There we go.
I thought it was kind of like a Wayne's World flashback noise then.
It could be. Could be Bill and Ted.
So shall I recite the news from 2 years ago then?
No, that'd be totally bogus.
Oh, could you totally recite the news in the voice of Dark Helmet?
No.
I tried.
No.
There shall be no Dark Helmet news.
No.
But how about normal news? Gazimoff,
Okay, so
what do you have for us?
normal news. First point of order is customization. So there's been a incredible DevSpeak released, and if you haven't seen the DevSpeak, you need to watch it right after this show for two reasons. First of all, the amount of mount customization that went on in this video was phenomenal. The noodle bowl on top of the Chua bowl was just one part of it.
Yes.
The amount of customization you can have on your hoverboards was phenomenal, and it showed 4 different mount points for your mounts. So you could have afterburners on them, you could have spoilers, you name it, you could pimp your ride however you like. But the other reason you have to watch the DevSpeak slowly on freeze frame is to learn about the new PvP that was mentioned in the disclaimer. I don't know about you.
I totally think that you, like the MMOBuff team, needs to get together to perform this. And I so totally firmly believe that Mizpah needs to be the WildStar in the first round.
Mizpah's always the WildStar.
Woohoo!
I thought I was always the protostar.
Woo! And yes, if you don't know what that's about,
Shall we find that DevSpeak and read it back?
Well, you can go and find the DevSpeak while I continue providing people with information.
I will happily read the thing to everybody, but go ahead. You do your news, and then I will read the stuff.
Okay, so apart from that, there's been a huge emphasis on the amount of customization that you can have in WildStar, because it's not just rolling your character and loading it up with abilities and amps to kind of tune those abilities, but there's housing, there's the mount customization, there's a load of stuff that goes on top of it that you can tweak and fiddle with as much as you like. Not to mention the fact you can level up pretty much how you want to as well. So you can go into questing, you can do PvP, like our good friend Blank Space lives in the PvP.
Understatement. Not only does he live in it, but like he excels in it. And his favorite thing, one of the things I loved watching him do was the one-on-one battles. He's like, oh yeah, let's do this. It's just like, go watch the Viking Nation. But yes, go ahead.
So apart from that, there was also a real good summary of the amount of customization that's available from our occasional co-host and compatriot, KaeyiDream,
who I want to point out is sick today, so she's just taking a day off. She will be back hopefully next week, but all of our thoughts go to you, Kaeyi. Stay warm, stay cool. Hope you feel better. Send her love, everyone.
She did a fantastic article on the recent customization DevSpeak and really broke it down into all the different elements of customization that there are in WildStar, from all of the different character customization facets right the way through, and a load of screenshots to go with it, so you can just see the amount of variation that's possible. So. And
it's well worth a look, and if you're not familiar, it's the sheer scale and scope of the number of things you can customize is just startling.
It's one of those things where if you haven't had a chance, and I'll put the link up for both of the pieces for people to go and look at for customization. It's one of those articles where you sit there going, will it ever end? Will they ever get to the end of the customization? And it just doesn't seem like it does, because the moment you finish one part, you're like, okay, so I get the vehicles. I get the fact that I can customize my armor. I get the fact that I can customize my house. There's more. It is insane. Let's look at it.
So everyone's used to customizing a character. Some games do it better or worse than others. There's some videos out there showing you the character customization of WildStar. I'd say they're doing it pretty darn well. You can decide to spend an awful lot of time, tweaking your left earring or whatever it is you want to do. But we've got character customization, character creation. Fine. Then we've got housing, both the inside and the outside of the housing. Again, a vast number of different things that you can do. Customization goes through into stats, though. You've got your primary and secondary, tertiary stats, runes, yada yada. Water, earth, fire, air, fusion, and logic. Then you can get into crafting. And lots of crafting, lots of different ways of doing it.
It's got its own skill tree.
Circuitry stuff. Yep. And you've got weaponsmith, armorer, mining, outfitter, survivalist, technologist, relic hunter, architect, tailor, cooking, and farming.
Fishing.
I have been looking.
Is hoping to come in the future.
Possibly. Don't think it's
no,
there yet.
they said it's not going to be at launch. Fishing will come in later, but I'm dying to see the tiny Chua, because they're like the smallest species in the game, with this gigantic, massive fishing cannon. I just think that's going to be hysterical.
Do
you know how a Chua goes? Yeah. Do you know how Chua go fishing?
With the TNT?
Jump in the water and act as bait.
With explosives.
Oh, come on. You had to have seen that one coming, Mizpah.
Oh, I know. I thought there was something else coming. I thought that was obvious. What I'm hoping for is that the dynamite goes off while the Chua are in the water, so all the Chua float to the top. I mean, that would be a good way to do it.
I just think that Carbine want to spend a bit more time on fishing so that we'll be hooked when it launches.
Oh, God. These puns are getting fishy. All right.
I think at this rate we need a new cast. Anyway.
Well, you know what they say. Carpe diem.
Amps, and I
this
don't
is neither the time nor the place.
Is it actually true? Am I actually being out-punned in the midst of a live show?
It's part of my trolling training. Da, da. But yes, go ahead.
And we have amps.
Yes.
And we don't mean the valve or the solid state or the 800 watt type. It's basically tweaking and adjusting your talent tree in various ways, which is explored. We've then got armor customization and costumes. We've got mount customization. And that's probably about it. You can argue, in fact, that there is indeed guild customization, depending on how you set things up when you spend the various points that you earn. Can't think of any others. Any more for any more people? What about the channel? Have we missed anything?
We'll have to come back to the channel in about a minute when it catches up with what we're actually saying. However, while we are waiting, what I'll do is I will take this moment to introduce people to the new PvP through the disclaimers. So the disclaimer starts off saying all this typical stuff, this is, still in beta, things may change, yada, yada. But then it says, for everyone still reading, I think it's time to peel back the curtain of one of our unannounced PvP mode options. I'm proud to give you the summary behind the hottest new competitive game mode this side of Farside. Asa Raven's Assault, Reform 2nd Edition rules! ! The game is played by 3 teams of 33, 26, and 4. Each team is then randomly assigned a Commodore to lead their team from out of combat. In addition, teams will have 2 designated supply chieftains to make food and drinks for teammates from inside their bases, and a rouse dower who is immediately shot and killed. As the team of 4 is left with no available combatants, they're subsequently disqualified, which means in the end, after setup and prep, you have 2 teams against each other. Before play can commence, the 3 Commodores meet at the center of the field for the ritual of establishing dominance over their adversaries. This is done by performing a scene of the player's choice from the TV show, Mr. Belvedere. Players score each performance based on technique, interpretation, clever use of character emotes, and accuracy of the player's Bob Uecker impressions. The winner, having been presented the traditional flip-flops of, oh good gosh, vermicelitude, may then announce any house rules that they wish to enforce during the match. Should this right be claimed, the game is paused while the Carbine engineers code the required software to support the request. The average time for this phase of the game is between 7 and 10 days, during which the logout by any player is seen as a team forfeit. Very, very important. Don't want to have to forfeit so early, especially after, shooting the roused hour. Once one of the 19 jabbed referees has given the ready signal, players begin play by running backwards in pairs toward the objective in the center of the field called the Valapoxium. The player's goal is to retrieve the Valapoxium and return it to its original owner, whose identity remains unknown. The Valapoxium is represented by one of multiple alternating prop models, each voiced by action movie star Colin Mockery. Now, the fact that they got someone involved that big a name, good on them. The Valapoxium is obtained by standing near one of several kiosks, each attempting to sell players various custom apparel and moisturizers. You might do well there, Mizpah. The player may achieve success by completely evading a sales pitch or by killing the kiosk NPC. Gazimoff's probably going to do better there. To this day, not a single player has succeeded at the former, and the rewards for its world's first achievement are spoken of by the player base in hushed whispers. Well, reverence, too. Combat plays out in the same manner as any other PvP, with the caveat that damage taken from enemy players is multiplied based on the number of complaints that have been received about your conduct. Teammates labeled as toxic by the community are known to explode on contact, though this is an effective tactic when used near an opponent's resource gazebo, the mechanics for which must be skipped for brevity's sake.
Yes, you must never approach the gazebo alone.
No, never. Very, very important. Once a team takes possession of the Valapoxium, it must defend its carrier from enemy attacks, environmental hazards, and personal insults shouted by the Valapoxium itself. I mean, this is an active, engaged NPC in combat. Retorts seen as witty or clever earn stat bonuses for the team. Unoriginal or slow reactions are punished by earning a battlefield promotion for the speaker to the role of Rousdower. Play continues for 3 rounds, each lasting a length of time determined by a complex mathematical formula using the lowest level player's musical tastes as a base variable. Mizpah, I am so not on your team.
That'll be a buff, yes?
No, not for you.
Not for you, no.
So what musical taste are we referring to here?
I've heard you listening to those Justin Bieber musics.
Yes, I listen to all of the Justin Biebers.
Is that kind of the thing where we see the cops show up and they're going, Bieber, 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 Bieber? Totally stole that from Charlie Brooker, sorry. Anyway. Once concluded, the customary statistical recap is substituted by a sample song playlist with options for screen capturing and submitting it to the social network of your choice for the purposes of shaming and mocking everyone involved. Highest score wins. Ties are broken by one of the following randomly chosen methods: popular vote, Kickstarter campaign, hopscotch, dance-off, multi-episode reality show competition, poetry slam, blindfolded dishwashing, or a one-on-one game of Asraven's Assault. Unabridged first edition, Brightland Gambit accepted. Disclaimer: be sure to ask the PvP designers for more details. So...
I'm quite sure that request has probably gone in already by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the new PvP that's coming in, that's a bit of a customization for a mechanic, don't you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Particularly the opportunity to introduce your own house rules. I would say, yeah, for sure. The only thing I'm a bit...
No,
you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just wondering as soon as... Okay,
you opened your mouth like a trap.
I'll go this way, that's fine. I'm actually now also waiting for when later on, perhaps if people are allowed to do so, I think a video will probably emerge showing this game in action. It is a matter of time before someone creates it. I, for one, would like to see it.
I completely agree. Just remember, Mizpah's the Rousdower.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Gazzy's team.
Mm-hmm. And I'm on Blank's team.
Well, but if that then becomes the team of 4, then that's not going to do so well.
Oh, I'm sure we could get together with several other friends. We do have friends, right?
I think there's some in the cupboard under the sink.
No
Not sure what
wonder
else.
the Chua's been in my
Cleaning
kitchen today.
materials.
You've been in my
I've
kitchen
just got-
today. Mm.
I've just got visions now of a kind of WildStar flick with this WildStar with the WildStar hat on.
Yes, speaking of, that's a very lovely hat you're wearing today, Mizpah.
It is a very lovely hat. I quite like it. In fact, what I do like about it is he says showing hat hair. You never want to show hat hair live on camera. Of course, this one that oh look, where did that come from? Another one, he says. Sorry, Blank, it had to be done.
You have 2 of those hats.
Maybe. Maybe not.
If he has 2 of those hats and I don't
maybe
have
the other
one
was
yet,
a fig roll of your
he
imagination.
and I are going to meet at the Valapoxium, and I am going to own him with my song playlist, okay? I'm just saying. If he has 2 and he hasn't given me one. The Pseudo has spoken.
Very much doubt that will have happened. I'm now in fear and trembling.
But yes, so we've had a lot of stuff come out about customization. There is so much to customization. I feel sorry for completionists. And there are a lot of completionists who play MMOs, you know, the ones who go after every achievement, go after every die that you can get, every skill that you can get. I mean, the people who are going to sit there and on one character level every single trade skill they possibly can to all the maximum stuff of play, you know. It seems to me that they've got their work cut out for them. I mean, that's...
They're going to have a lot to do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, customizations per se obviously has an impact on that to a level, but it's really the sheer degree of stuff that exists. I mean, the moment we saw that housing existed, and the way that housing is put together, and the fact that items for housing are found from every single component of gameplay, you know, that really tight integration, means that if you want all the stuffs in your house, you're going to have to do all the stuffs.
Well, if you want to get
many stuffs.
If you want to get technical, that's kind of the big thing about what WildStar is pushing. They're not your average MMO that says, you know, if you want to just do PvP, do PvP. What they're saying is, if you go in and you guys take on a 40-man boss and the boss drops for you, you can put it in your 40-man war plot. You're helping your PvP team out. If you are going around and you are wanting to get rewards like, gee, I don't know, renown, or, you know, maybe you want to get some PvP bonuses. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Sorry, Aiko, your article's great, but that just totally slipped my brain. But, you know, all of these individual things, you can actually accumulate it faster if you're in a group. So they're kind of pushing this gorgeous play among people. Yep. They're bringing back the MM into the O world, which I really, really like.
Which is a good thing. I mean, renown is a pretty cool mechanic. So where do we want to dive in? We've got a ton of customization. We've got various articles floating around. Let's pick a point in the perplexing puzzle and dive into it.
Well, I think we've kind of, in terms of the news, there is one other element of news that's worth covering up before we kind of dive in.
And only because it was requested in channel.
Ah, there we go.
There's your news. Someone wanted me to beatbox again. I can't deny the channel.
Okay.
Cassie's like, never again. Never again.
Gazzy's like thinking animated GIF.
Oh no!
Only a bot. One more piece of news, Mr. Gazimoff. What have we
just
got?
get it to loop. Anyway, yeah, the other piece of news is all about the guilds and grouping and everything like that. So there's been 2 elements around that. There's been the whole aspect of being able to group up and join as a guild, and there's been a load of information that's come out from Carbine around forming guilds, setting up guilds, and how guilds work. Now, there's a really interesting nuance to guilds in particular, and that is that guilds have a particular currency called guild influence, which you can spend on things for your guild. But here's the kicker. You only get guild influence, or the best way to get guild influence, is by grouping up with guildmates and doing stuff. So if you have, which makes a lot of sense, but it means that if you're kind of spamming trade chat, and you get a huge amount of people in your guild, but they all go off and do their own thing, then your guild will not progress, will not move up the ranks, will not earn guild influence. If you group up and do your 5-mans together, do your PvP together, do your questing together, you will earn guild influence and you'll move up quicker. So a smaller, more focused and more cohesive guild will perform better and earn currency quicker than a large but disparate guild. And I think that's a really clever move. It's a really neat design. The other thing, though, is that there's a lot of flexibility around grouping. This is one of the things I really appreciate about WildStar compared to more traditional MMOs. The fact that you've got open tagging, which means that with older MMOs, you would have closed tagging. You tag a mob and it'd be yours, and no one would help you until either the mob died or you died. And if you died, they'd go then tag the mob.
Usually with just a little bit of health left, too, because it would seem to clear up the moment your death hits, and they've got like 10% health. And
yeah,
hated
exactly.
that. That irritated me.
The great thing about WildStar is it encourages people to play together, because if they do attack the same mob that you're attacking, they get rewards as well. So you don't feel that you're kind of disadvantaging each other. And I think that's a great idea, because it means straight from the word go, straight from logging in, you're not having this competition. The only competition that exists is between Dominion and Exiles. And I think that's a really subtle but neat design, and it exists all the way through. The fact that if you group up and quest together with someone else, you start earning you start earning renown, which you can then use to buy bits and pieces. Like dies, I think, was one of the things that was mentioned. So there's this kind of social currency that, again, encourages you to group up. And I think there's a lot of pessimism going around saying, well, won't you just group up and hang around with people anyway and not say a word to them? But it's like, why would you do that? That makes no sense.
Are those pond life, Gazimoff?
Well, I think it's people saying, well, I'm just going to play the system. Really?
I think as well the game, the things you can do in the game, the way the game is played, it encourages communication. So there's both some, you can game the system and play optimally by grouping. Yes. You can also play more optimally by communicating in a group.
Exactly.
So you put those two things together, and people are going to be encouraged to have what I would have to say is a positive behaviour.
Exactly. The other thing that happened with the other thing that exists is we know there are dungeons because you and I have played them at ArcShip EU and had our arses handed to us on a plate by Storm Talons there. There are also going to be raids, 120 and 140 man, and there is also going to be PvP and lots of it. Yeah. But there's also this thing called ship hand missions, which haven't really been explained that well. And I actually did a video during the week explaining how ship hand missions work. And there's this really cool thing where if you haven't got 5 people for a dungeon, say you're a couple of Chuas short of a 5-man group,
Sanity.
Exactly. Then you can do this kind of ship hand mission, which is it scales depending on the number of people you have, anything from solo up to 5 men, and they take about 20 minutes to complete, give or take, depending on which mission you do and so on. The first one starts at level 12, and I think it's a really good kind of training course before you step into dungeons proper to do these ship hand missions and get used to combat as a group, particularly if you're trying to do tanking or healing and you've never done active combat tanking or healing. This is a really clever way of getting a little bit of practice in, a little bit of training before you go into Storm Talon's there and go, oh.
Because trust me, in Storm's Talon's lair, you will need that practice.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely, indeed.
It's actually something the game does well across the board, from the the very first tutorial levels, so to speak, when you're leading your ship, through to the way you're taken through various zones in a sequence in the early game. Things are introduced to you now, all game concepts, in a really good fashion. It's not to say you can't go and do whatever, wherever. You're not being put on a treadmill and forced down a particular path with lots of English people in a queue saying "stand here." But the fact is, the main tenets and concepts of the game are introduced in a good, graduated way, and that includes learning the skills that you have and getting to use them in a way that's sane, but also learning about game concepts and stuff in a way that's sane. And I do believe there's been dev comments in the past talking about the fact, well, every single aspect of the game is teaching you to be able to do the next thing that's coming up, and that shows. I think it's a good thing.
Well, it's an exceptional part of design philosophy. I mean, if you really wanted to, and there are some games out there like this, where they just throw you in and there's no such thing as a tutorial, there's no such thing as, step-by-step learning. I mean, you basically walk in and you either learn or you die. It's that simple. And for some people, there is something to be enjoyed by that kind of gameplay. Not everybody likes that, though, so...
Yeah, I mean, there's two different forms of MMO. There's the one which kind of just throws you in the deep end, and it kind of says, okay, you learn or you die. And I know it's not an MMO, but Minecraft is a really good example of that.
Yes.
But there's
most people don't realize it, but it is.
But the other end of that kind of spectrum is the MMO that's kind of built identikit style, where you take a great RPG single-player campaign, you add on some battlegrounds and some PvP and some dungeons and maybe a raid and go, bam, instant MMO. And it's like, well, where's all the social aspects that plumb it all together? And all you've done is taken what could have been a fantastic RPG like Knights of the Old Republic 3 and turned it into an MMO, and you kind of go, really?
Yeah.
There might be more evidence of such things soon as well.
Yes, I have to agree with you, Suicidal Zebra. Learn or die. Chewed kindergarten. And I do also
Are those
need...
the kindergarten classes where you get chewed up and spat out?
And you were complaining about the fish jokes earlier.
Well, I'm going to get some revenge.
I also want to say for you, Biscuit, couple of Chua short of a 5-man group sounds very much so like a definition for insanity, or a euphemism, as they pointed out, which I do have to agree. So what we have here is we have a lot of customization that goes into your characters. We have the group play, but we have all these kinds of things stacking up reward-wise, which is what Aiko had written about. My question for you is, which one are you most excited about? Now, I know Mizpah is not the biggest fan of customizing, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point in time in our rating experience, he decides that the person who, I don't know, forgot to press the button has to go pink for a day or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. But, when it comes down to it, is there something about the customization itself that you're really excited about? And is there something specific about the way that you're rewarded for actual honest-to-goodness group play that you're excited about?
Actually, yes, because customization is not just aesthetic. I mean, aesthetics are great, but they're not what drive me as a person. But the minute you get into saying, well, okay, how am I going to tweak amps? How am I going to tweak stats on items? You're doing something meaningful that affects your numbers, it affects what you do, it affects your playstyle, it affects how successful you are. So it's an area of the game where you can do it better, quote unquote, than someone else and gain an advantage. So I'm all over that like a rash.
Oh, you definitely fit number 5 in our DPS chart. And for you, Gazi?
I think it's a mix of them both. I think that there's a lot of very clever design in terms of how the group work is put together to make it very, very easy to fall into that. And I'm really hoping that it kind of breeds a different culture as a result. For me, customization is the fun thing, the interesting thing. I'd really like to see what kind of rare artifacts I can get for the Orbitron, which is the Chua sphere mount, possibly flaming jets that I can bolt onto the side, and laser turrets that I can put on the top, and stuff like that. Not for any particular reason, just purely ornamental.
To quote Vegas
Will
Enigma...
you be sporting a ramen bowl, though?
No.
Well, no. To quote Vegas Enigma here, I can totally see a new MMO buff show, Pimp My Hoverboard.
Quite possibly. One of the things that I do think is funny, I think this is also going to end up being like part of a guild title or a guild rank, is while I've been playing around and recording videos and stuff, every so often in chat someone will go www, where they've got into chat and started holding down the keys.
No, they would have to call that a pappy.
Yes.
They would have to call it a pappy.
No running in chat used to be the phrase.
Yeah, so holding down the keys, and especially when you broadcast it across an entire zone, has become known as doing a pappy. So,
Poor Pappy.
yeah,
I'm still Team Pappy, but poor Pappy.
and I just find it amazing that you started having this player-based lore cropping up. And I'm really hoping that's something that continues into live. And 2 years beyond, 3 years beyond, it'll still be known as doing a pappy.
It probably will. I mean, you can look at other games, and there are instances of things like that. Whenever someone in WoW, when Blues made certain comments, they would still be quoted back years later.
Oh, they
sometimes
had
in ways where they wish they weren't.
Achievement. I mean, that was players started, became slightly viral, only a little viral, and it turned into an achievement. So.
And we all know the story of mini whelps handle it. Not quite the same thing, but it shows how things will just resonate through a player base and keep on resonating many years later.
Absolutely.
I think the only interesting thing is about all of the kind of hats for raptors and stuff like that is that it has generated this kind of question that with all of these customization elements, one of the things that became really popular with Valve and Team Fortress 2 in particular was just selling hats. They didn't sell the game, they just sold hats. And I swear to God that at some point it became less about having this kind of virtual warfare simulator and more about just having a hat collection game, a virtual hat collection game, because that's all that you were playing for, to try and chase down these hats.
Someone should just create that game, release it, and call it Miller's Madness or something.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if they then went on and started saying, well, players can create their own hats and upload them to Steam Workshop, and if they do well, then Valve will start selling them. And I'm wondering if such an element can creep into WildStar at some point in the future, where people start coming up with these weird and wacky and wonderful things, and then they can be put on into the game.
What I'd like to see is something very similar to that. I mean, you want to be very careful because when you start getting into a bunch of customization, you're starting to deal with coding, and then you've got to vote things in, and that can cause a whole lot of problems. However, what I would love to see is the occasional contest, like the holiday hat. Have the rest of the community put hats together specifically for the holiday and make it something that's more than just simply, I have a hat. Make it something exceptional, community-based, because what that ends up doing is you will end up with a whole bunch of crazy people who create a hat, and then the developers don't have to sit there and build a shop in, and then people go, well, how are you going to buy something that's been made? Is this really a free-to-play game, or is this really a subscription game, or is this a pay-to-win game? I mean, you can cause so many issues in a design principles if you do that. But if you have the occasional contest, like, build the best pumpkin hat ever for Halloween, or, what's the best love hat you can come up with for Valentine's Day, I could see that as being a very exceptional way to keep the community continually involved post-launch. Because one of the big worries a lot of people have is, the devs are listening right now. But when that launch button drops, when those gates are opened, and all of those tubes are filled with ones and zeros, what's going to happen? And I think contests that help us to, design the best Pappy poster for your house. I'd love to see little things like that, because that will keep the community engaged. But, oh no, something tells me that Chua's had an image for a Pappy poster. God.
Yeah, it would just be full of letters, like W's and A's.
And Z's. Or my favorite, there's something wrong with the mouse. Something's wrong with the keyboard.
Yeah, picture maybe kind of like a Matrix-style montage where you've got a broken keyboard in the background and made up of W's and A's and stuff. There you go. I've inspired you, Internet. Make it for me.
Now what I want to do is I want at one point in time for the confuse that gets thrown on people, that discombobulation that screws up your keyboard, I'd love to see people call it something like Pappy's Revenge. And it's something you can apply as a debuff to somebody for like one of the events or something like that. That's, That would be absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, if you really wanted to play fair, because you kind of have to, so then you'd have to have something like Frost's Figment of Imagination or something like that, where he keeps stealing headphones and being grumpy. Did you see how much he pouted? That was just great. But I'm just saying.
How the Grinch stole headphones.
This true story of Frost behind the scenes of Carbine. Coming to theaters near you, as long as a Chua hasn't blown it up. Please check local listings for time.
It's probably time of the explosion. What else do we have to dive into? Is there anything to the channel? Is there anything people would like to see expounded on?
Well,
Because there's so much to this. Where do we want to go into and pull out some more details?
Suicidal Zebra says a hat-based economic stimulator, still more accurate than Eve, and with fewer spreadsheets. And then the engineer points out that there is something sort of like what we were talking about, and that's called EQ Next. And
Yes.
then Suicidal Zebra continues with, in fairness, Valve did an excellent service by incentivizing item creation. Sure, it was money rather than community-driven, but it gets those with genuine talent interested.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things in that whole thing about, do you reward the content creator? How do you control content? How do you make sure you're uploading items to a shop?
That's like a Monday show right there.
Yeah, it's a Monday show, so yeah, that's a little more detail, but it comes with a raft of issues.
Well, it means you've got the entire weekend to think about it, Mizpah. Report on my desk first thing Monday. Thank you.
Not a problem. So let's go Pseudo.
No, by all means, go ahead.
Let's pick a topic and dive into it. Customization, many factors. Where shall we elaborate?
Many factors. Handle it.
I think what I find most interesting, and I'm just going to pipe in and throw in my 2 bits, 3 threepennies, whatever, into this, is when it comes to customization, we have customization that is actually forced on players who wouldn't normally customize because of the limited action set. I mean, think about how many people... Nope, he's right there. How many people are actually very much so all about having everything available at all times for all reasons, just so that he can be viable at all times for all things. And then you start looking at the situation where, hey, you can really only have X amount of buttons or abilities or skills available. You can have all of them, but you can only use a certain amount at a time for a fixed period in a combat situation. And what you're actually forcing people to do is think again. I mean, someone could easily go, I have no idea, I'm just going to use whatever comes my way, but they're going to find they're going to die a lot. And hopefully that frustration actually curbs them and they start to look beyond just simply, this is a pretty button. So, I like the fact that the design choices that have been made by WildStar to this point that are all up in our faces is teaching people to be better MMO players, better game players. And I really, really like that. So by limiting, I have actually done so much.
Now, Vegas poses a question. Can customization go too far? If so, when? I could argue that, again, putting a ramen bowl on a Chua bowl is pretty extreme, but I wouldn't say it causes anyone any harm unless they're trying to eat said ramen. People could make an argument that the complexity of getting an action set, plus your stats, plus your items, plus, all optimal, could be too far. I'd argue vehemently against that. I'd say that a lot of games don't go far enough. But what else would you look at? Gazimoff.
I think that having customization is great when it makes your character really clearly identifiable. I think that being able to, when you're doing character customization, spending 2 or 3 hours going every single nuance, every single feature, saying, okay, I want a blemish just there on the cheek. I want to have him having this patronizing smirk with just an upturn on the corner of the mouth. That is too much customization. Why? Because when you log in, you're going to be looking at the back of your head 99% of the time, and he's going to be about yay big on the screen with everything else around him as you zoom out.
Maybe you have to spend some time customizing the fringe on the back of your neck.
Well, quite possibly, but I think you can go... It's quite amusing how you spend ages and ages and ages choosing the face, only to look at the back of the skull most of the time. I think you can get to a point of absurdity there. And games that encourage it, I think, well, how much do you spend looking at the front of your character? Just want to put it out there. I think that it's great when you can customize and emphasize things that are really clearly visible. So these are things like mounts, where you have really clear and bold attachments that you can put on the vehicle, particularly if some are rarer than others. So you can then turn around and say, okay, I know that guy, he's gone out and done this particular quest line and got this particular epic spoiler for his mount, or I think this guy's really cool because he's got downlighters on his hover bike. I think that would be cool. Also really...
That when you start getting to things like that, you're starting to get into personal preference. Because I can tell you, some people will look at those downlights and be like, what? Really? Someone will look at that spoiler and go, you call that fashionable? You know.
I would. Okay, so one of the things I loved about SWOTOR, and one of the things I would really like to have in
WildStar?
In WildStar is that I had this. Yeah, okay.
Quick tip: the show's about it.
It has been a pretty long day, guys. Give me a break.
This is very true.
One of the things which I would really love to be able to do is have this kind of almost like a chavvy character who has a vehicle with downlighters and spoilers and a beatbox.
I have to kind of point out for the American audience, chavs are not quite what you might think. Your best bet is to actually just go look them up. Remember, Gazimoff wants to see something like this.
And spell carefully.
Yes. Yeah. Now, before I totally interrupt you.
The whole key thing was to have some kind of sound effect. So you would drive around and there'd be like this boombox going off as well.
Fair enough.
I don't think it'll happen because I think Carbon will say, nope, disrupt it.
Well, for me, I think when it comes to customization, and I'm going to quickly give my answer because there's been a couple of really awesome questions that have come in, and I think they are well worth us tackling before this particular episode ends. But when it comes to customization, I think there is a point where it can go too far. And I think it depends on what the point of the game is. I mean, the reality is if you're going to play a single-player game, customize your way through it. If you want to play a game where you pick what color your left eyelash is 3, hairs over, then that's fine. But if you're going to start pulling stuff like that into an MMO, you have to make a choice. Do you want to give people so much flexibility and freedom over what their character, quote unquote, looks like? Now, I'm not even getting into stats here. Then think about what impact that's going to have on bandwidth. Think about what impact that's going to have when you start, if you have a design choice of never having groups more than 10, you might be able to pull that off, especially if you decide to do instance zones, where if you want to go in, it's only you and your party and you guys have the entire zone to yourself. You can have those kinds of design elements in, but there has to be a give and a take somewhere. And there has to be a line that is drawn. That line is going to be different for every single game and for each design choice that's out there. That's at least my opinion on that. Now, one of the questions that we had come in, and this is from Suliko, she said that she heard from the devs that if you wear light armor, you could put on a costume to make it look like you're wearing heavy armor. How do we feel about that? I mean, have they put a lock-on gear received from raids so that only those who earned it get to wear it? That kind of a stuff. Now, before I let you get on the soapboxes that I know both of you are preparing, I just want to say, for everybody who is currently watching, now's the time to look at the screen. I introduce you to a real live customized Chua. Say hi. Yes, I know. I know. Hello. She sends her love. Go ahead. You can get your soapbox now.
I'm now waiting for the Chua to blow something up. So
she's not feeling very well today.
I'm not. First of all, there are two parts of that question. The second part of that question involved raid gear. Therefore, that doesn't fall in the remit of 1 to 15, so we're not going to answer or talk about that question. Sorry. First part of that question, however. Personally, I don't mind something that will approximate something, but there has to be enough visual difference for my part to be able to go, actually, no, I've got my wits about me, I still know that's a clothy, splat, you're dead. If something is able to utterly put across the, hey, that's a charging, that's a warrior, It's an X.
Can I point
if
out
something is totally something else?
they've done that with the weapons?
Yes, they've done it with the
So,
weapons.
I mean, honestly, if you see somebody in really, really heavy armor and they're running around with a side blade and you're seriously thinking, oh, is that an engineer?
Exactly.
Or the telegraphs as well, because it's pretty obvious. If it's a medic, you get the kind of techno telegraphs.
And that's where I was going on the next bit. So it's all well and good to visually change something out. And that's great, but you still need...
the nameplates as well.
Yes, so
do you actually game? Do you?
No, this is actually where I was going. It's all well and good to change something out, and if the appearance is able to fool someone, that's a problem, because you're then attempting to be something that you're not. But that isn't actually the case here, for all the reasons that you're actually saying. So you may go back into your troll cage, sir. We shall hang it back from the underside of the bridge, and we shall wait for Billy Goat Gruff to go clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop next time.
Wow, that's taking it back to an old school situation. So, Fairy Tales by Mizpah at 11.
Indeed.
Ooh.
Grandpa Mizpah tells them all.
Grandpa Mizpah, so true. So true. So many people think, never mind, I'm not even going to start touching on the ages of these people because, we're all young and sprightly.
I think that costume is the solution that they've put in is absolutely fine and fantastic. I don't have any issue with it. The only issue that I would be worried about, like Pseudo mentioned, is if someone can roll need on a piece of armor that they wouldn't normally be able to wear to say, oh, I need that for my costume. No. In fact, that would be an N with so many O's after it.
No, see, that's the thing. I mean, if they allow that, they're kind of breaking their fundamental rules. What I'm kind of interested in is what they've said is if you're a light armor wearer, you could make yourself look like you're in heavy. Well, if you're a heavy armor wearer, can you make yourself look like you're in light, or is it only a one-way street? And if that happens to be the case, go back to the drawing board. To me,
I think it's all over the place. Personally, I think it's all over the place.
I just want a Chua potion. I want to turn into a Chua. That's all.
Well, you can roll a Chua. It's quite easy.
Why would you want to do that?
Ew.
In fact, no, we can roll a Chua. We want to find a very steep cliff.
And then
with lots and lots of pointy, spiky bits.
We're not
and roll a Chua down the cliff.
We're not going to
Problem solved.
Yeah. Sorry, her fever's just gone up.
Oh.
That's why she's wrapped up right now. She comes to mommy when she's not feeling well.
So, there's a question from chat. How's the new video card? So,
are we going to tackle that here or post-show?
Here. We'll mention it here.
We'll mention it here so that it ends up on the YouTube.
Exactly, the tube of views.
Yes, but of course, do inform us. Because how is the card?
Dame Judi Dench.
At least it came across as Judi Dench and not something else. I could take being Judi Dench, that's fine. Dame Judi Dench if you want to get technical, but yes, go ahead.
Indeed. I did get technical.
Ooh, Esquire.
Less. Anyhow, so graphics card. So last week on the show, I was waving around a new graphics card box that I had acquired.
Sadly, when he opened it, he discovered there was nothing in the box. He just actually bought a really expensive box.
There was a small bag of Haribo, and that was it. No graphics card at all.
Well, the Haribo good value.
I don't know. I can't eat them at the moment.
Can they run your PC?
Yes, actually, the bag of Haribo runs exceptionally well in my PC at the moment.
Screenshot or it didn't happen.
Why are we trolling Gazzy? This is hysterical. Poor guy can't even get a word in.
It's okay. I just roll with it.
Just like we would with Chua's.
Indeed. So the new graphics card is a GTX 780. It's the overclocked variety, factory overclocked variety. So it is a gigabyte gigahertz edition, which means it's got all the trimmings you can possibly get without going up to the 780 Ti or the mythical Titan, the unicorn graphics card. in
Why
terms
do
of
you
how
call
it's
it a
performing,
unicorn graphics card? Does it like
because
fart rainbows or something?
I think at the prices they're charging, it should damn well do so. Yeah,
It's an interesting piece of kit.
it's an interesting piece of kit, and there are only about 5 in the world, from what I imagine. But there we go. And 4 of them are in that
That one machine.
Pixel
The
Collider.
Pixelator.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know what that is, we will have to put that link there somewhere. It's kind of scary and fantastic, and I want one.
Indeed. So the what it was replacing was an old GTX 480 that was making a noise that varied between scraping nails down a corrugated iron sheet and grinding like a bean-to-cup coffee machine. So deciding that it was going the way of the Dodo, I decided to get it replaced. I replaced it with a 780, which goes very, very, very quickly. The
Does it
ship
make
transmission
noise?
was... No, it's almost silent.
Does
Which
it
is
have 2
very
fans on it?
No, 3.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor and periodically make certain that you check it to keep the fans going, because sometimes they need
Yes.
a little bit of extra squeegee oils and stuff.
Yes, I found that with the 480, which was also a 3-fan system, but the new 3-fan systems are a little bit better. They've upped the durability of the fans themselves. So it means I'm going to sort out the 480 and probably send it back and get it repaired or something like that. But if you look at the ship transmission, that was recorded using this fancy new graphics card, and it barely drops below 70 frames a second, which is amazing. It's so good.
And have you started using Shadowplay yet?
I haven't started using Shadowplay because I'm using Fraps.
You should.
Is Shadowplay better than Fraps?
Yes, we did a quick hands-on a video piece at it at, where were we? I can't remember now.
Was it Eurogamer?
It was possibly Eurogamer. It's all a merge. There was an
It's
NVIDIA
all a
stand with a
blur.
number of bits.
Eurogamer.
It wasn't Eurogamer. It actually
Gamescom?
was...
Was it Gamescom?
Com?
Yes.
Yep.
Games-
I need to go look on the channel and find it now. Anyway, we did a quick video piece on it and how to play with it, and it's really rather good tech. I'm going to need to do something with my machine, actually, and an update to that in the near future. Will make life a lot easier.
Well, apparently, by the way, Mizpah, you have received plus 1,000 internets for your Chua rolling.
Thank you. I think that's a fitting reward. I will now distribute those internets with each person that goes out and rolls an additional Chua.
Now I want to have someone make a video of a Chua rolling, which shouldn't be too hard because of the dodge. They actually roll. You could totally make an awesome video of pushing Chuas.
Yes. So, in fact, Suicidal Zebra says in chat, Shadowplay still isn't quite ready for prime time, and other options are still better. So I might do a Fraps versus Shadowplay comparison
That'd be good to see.
and see how they both perform.
Seeing the demo in a controlled state, I would say that the Shadowplay really was rather good. But real-world experiences, I can't say I've had them in my own machine.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're always going to vary. I want to just... No, go ahead. Get your optimization in.
The optimal setup would be to have a separate machine recording from something like an Elgato device that plugs in, and then you just stream through that. But that's just going excessively, because that's the Elgato is another £100 on top, which just might.
And a quick segue into something before we probably cut into post-show in a minute. Those of you know the MMOBuff landscape at the moment. We're busy setting up the studio. In fact, there's a page appearing on the website about that shortly, the journey we're on, the kit we're using, etc., etc. And there might be something to point people to shortly about a way we'll have of doing streaming and capture and stuffs. Details still being worked out, but it should be quite a bit of fun. Very akin to what you were just talking about, Gazzy.
Yes. Actually, there are a couple of things that should be covered before we hit post-show, and then let Gazzy go off on a nerd rant about his video card.
Hey.
Hey, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. How many of us are nerds here?
Geek, thank you.
Hey, geek and nerd are 4-letter words, and there's nothing wrong with either of them. Don't make me have her stare at you evilly. Look at her.
Don't make me get the dictionary.
Look at her. She is saying there is nothing wrong with being a geek, and there is nothing wrong with being a nerd. Look at that face. She's evil. Don't let the looks fool you. But yes, a couple of things that we want to hit before we actually move in to the final moments, because we've run a little bit over, mostly because someone really likes their video card. So I will throw those newses in, and then we'll do a quick break, and we will come right back.
And, well, I'll tell you afterwards, yes. Throw in the news, then we can finish the YouTube-isms.
YouTube-isms. Yes. So, as you know, we are shifting offices. We have shifted offices. We're going to have a lot of stuff being done design-wise, and you will definitely want to check out MMOBuff.TV. There will be a link up this weekend, and it will start revealing little bits and pieces. So if you want to know what we do, how we do it, our workflow, and the other Chua is starting to run behind curtains in the house. This is weird. Sorry. And then on top of that, we have a fantastic piece coming out Monday on dimorphism in gaming by Dave Poe, who is also known as WildStar. You really, really, really want to read this piece. And we have on Tuesday of next week, we have a guest joining us, Aiko. Monday, well, we're not revealing what we're talking about Monday yet because it's kind of secret, super secret, and you'll just have to wait. Wednesday, during our Top Draw show, we are going to be digging into how to actually gain advantages. And for those of you who watched the previous one, Marcia and I discussed all the advantages, well, almost all of them. And then next Friday, obviously, Cosmotronic, like what we're doing right now. Come one, come all. Make certain that you click follow, by the way, for those of you who are not currently following us, and make certain that you are following us on Twitter, which is MMOBuff, because the reality is Twitch sometimes doesn't send out an email to let you guys know that we have been live until after the show is over. So,
which is helpful.
Which is really, really helpful. So do make certain that you are following us. Yes, I'm telling them about that, dear. Make certain that you are following us on Twitter, because it does actually go out on Twitter when we go live. And apparently she wants to talk on the mic. That is just great. Silly dog. Anyway.
And also to say, Friday's Cosmotronic, we won't get a confirmation till Tuesday, but there might be someone or something interesting happening.
Oh, yes.
We just don't know yet.
Yes. So on that note, what I'm going to do is I am going to let everyone do their farewells for this segment, and we'll be literally right back for a post-show chat, because I need to ask Azzy questions. So folks,
that was the 11th edition of Cosmotronic, I do believe. We've already managed to get 10 under our belt. Well, time does fly. So, you know where to find us, all the social stuff, all of the MMOBuff.TV stuff. MMOBuff everywhere. See you around. Catch you on the flip side. It is goodbye from Gazzy.
Goodbye.
And it is probably a toodle pip from Pseudo.
it is indeed a toodle pip from me and from the Chua, who has decided that my hand is the best tasting thing on the planet. Who is currently...
He is a Chua. They are evil. They always get you in the end. On that note, this is Mizpah for MMOBuff.TV, signing off.
We'll be right back.